Hi, thanks for watching. This video was originally a Facebook Live video that was presented in my Facebook group, Stone Family Farmstead Community. If you'd like to catch these videos in real time on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. PST, you can do that by going to stonefamilyfarmstead.com/community and joining the group. If you'd prefer to just watch the edited versions of these videos here on YouTube, go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button and you should get the updates each week. Thanks a lot. Hey guys, it's Christy with Stone Family Farmstead coming to you from the Stone Family Farmstead barn. This is where I do a lot of my stuff. This is where I actually store most of my stuff. So this is, where we're coming from. And the reason for that is because I have people home during the week this time, and I didn't want to be interrupted. So, so welcome. My name's Christy. For those of you that don't know me, I am owner of this group. Hey, Cynthia. And I am also owner and author at stonefamilyfarmstead.com, where I teach new homesteaders things like gardening, food preservation, homestead planning, all at the beginner level. Hey Deb, hey Melinda, nice to see you guys. So today we're going to be talking about Seed Saving 101, which just means I'm going to start at the very ground level of how to save seeds and what you're going to want to be thinking about if you want to save seeds out of your garden. And it's pretty easy, but there are some things that you're going to need to know. And so I'm going to tell you those things. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and just post them anytime you like, and I will get to them as I can. And let's see, I guess we can just go ahead and get started. So why would anybody want to save seeds? It's like anything, right? I know when I first started wanting to homestead, my husband was like, well, why do you want to grow your own food or raise your own meat or, any of those things when you could just go to the store and get them, right? Well, we know the answers to that, and all of us have different reasons for doing the things we want to do. And saving seeds is actually, there's a lot of perks to doing it. And so one of the major ways that you can benefit from saving seeds is you can save money. And so seeds aren't all that expensive, really. When you go to the store, you might, pay $1.59 to $3, depending on what kind of seeds that you're getting. But the thing is that when you go to the big box stores like your Home Depot or your Walmart or your Lowe's or whatever, there's a lot of different types of seeds, but not necessarily the kind that we might want to grow, or there's not a whole lot of super fancy different things. Like, I don't know, have you guys ever gotten the Baker Creek catalog? It's beautiful, and there's so many different kinds of seeds in there. So if we're into gardening and we're looking at these catalogs, we're probably not going to find a lot of those types of seeds available at the grocery stores. I mean, not the grocery stores, but the big box stores. And so we have to order them online. And so that's the thing, is that, we might pay something like $3 a package or whatever, and shipping, and just to get all those delivered to us, because we have to go to a special place. I love Baker Creek too, Melinda. And about the cross-pollination, I am going to talk about that a little bit later, and I'm going to help you know what different things that you can do to prevent cross-pollination. And so, but yeah, I love Baker Creek too. Their catalogs are awesome, and I love to order from them. But it gets expensive every year to order, all the different types of seeds that you want to. So you can save money. Also, if you are looking at not starting your seeds indoors, hey Aunt Annie, if you're looking at not starting your seeds indoors, then you might want to buy plant starts, and we can't always get all the different varieties that we want to out of the big box stores. So there's that issue as well. So saving money, giving yourselves more options for rare varieties of plants, which we kind of talked about already. Also, you can preserve favorite heirloom varieties to share with family and friends. So, you know, I know that Melissa K. Norris, I don't know if you know of her, but her family has been, hey Heidi, how you doing? Her family has been passing down and, you know, growing and harvesting seeds from, I think the bean is called Tar Heel bean, for like generations. So this is something that they do, a family thing that they do, and they preserve their favorite heirloom variety of green beans to share amongst each other and with friends. Another thing that you might be doing or wanting to avoid when you're saving seeds, or actually I should say, another thing that you can avoid by saving your own seeds is not bringing foreign soil into your garden. So some people really spend a lot of time making sure to cultivate an ecosystem in their garden, you know, of organic organisms and you know, worms and all kinds of different things and bacteria and stuff like that. And when we bring in plants that have been fertilized with synthetic fertilizers, you know, the synthetic fertilizer, as it erodes or as it gets used up, it leaves a salt in the soil that isn't conducive to growing a good healthy ecosystem. So if you want to avoid things like that, I've never really noticed an issue with that, but that is something that you can think about if you care about those kinds of things. So those are the reasons why you might want to save seeds. Also, it's really fun. I actually find saving seeds to be really fun, and I don't know if you're like me at all, but I find it really relaxing to do, you know, tedious work if I have some time or whatever. So I just really kind of enjoy it. So there are a few different types of seeds. So let's see. There are seeds when we go, you know, to buy seeds from somewhere, with the exception of like companies like Baker Creek or Seeds of Change or any of those seed companies that say that they don't sell any, you know, non-GMO seeds. Usually they don't do hybrids either. So you know that when you order from these seed companies that you're going to be able to, especially if they say heirloom, let me see if I can find that. Especially if they say heirloom on the package, you know that you're going to be able to collect seeds from that. But generally speaking, if you're just going to Walmart or Home Depot or whatever, you know, there's going to be a lot of options for different types of seeds. And a lot of times it's not really easy to find out what each type of seed is. So you might end up buying something called a hybrid, which is these are seeds produced by two plants that have been crossed, right? And they get crossed by people to improve the plant in some way, like a higher yield or a better fruit or a different kind of fruit, shorter growing season, whatever. Meyer lemons is a really good example of that. I have a really awesome Meyer lemon tree that we inherited when we moved in here, and they are the best lemons ever. Anybody that I give lemons to loves these lemons, and the reason why is because they taste good, they're beautiful, they're sweet, and they're really good for lemonade, and you can even slice them up and just eat them if you like lemons. I do, so I sometimes do that, but they're a cross between a regular lemon and a mandarin orange, so you could tell where that sweetness is gonna come in. But these don't happen naturally. These are a hybrid lemon. Also, there are other hybrid varieties. Yeah, totally. Just like lemonade without having to add sugar. You know what we do sometimes, Melinda, is we make that strawberry syrup that I talked about. I think it was like a couple weeks ago in the live. and just add the strawberry syrup in to that, and it's just super good into our homemade lemonade made with the Meyer lemons. The only problem with using Meyer lemons is that instead you have to use, instead of 1 cup, you have to use 2 cups, or else the flavor gets kind of watered down. But anyway, that's a sidebar. Okay, so there are other types of plants that you can get. You know, if you're going to buy plant starts like Better Boy tomatoes, and I'm not really that, I think probably Celebrities and some of the other ones that are the most popular tomatoes and other plants that are usually offered at the big box stores. And those are, you know, bred for, you know, shorter growing seasons, or like you may get your tomatoes earlier, you know, than you would if you were just to plant an heirloom tomato. And so, you know, that's hybrids. The next kind of seeds I want to talk about is open pollinated or heirloom seeds. And these are seed varieties that were introduced, you know, over 50 years ago and weren't widely offered in stores, in the form of seeds or plants or anything until more recently. So these are seeds of strains of seeds or plants that have been just kept alive just by people perpetuating them themselves, and then maybe offering them to like seed savers, a seed bank of some type, you know, so that we could keep them going and not lose them and they wouldn't go extinct. So open pollinated and heirloom seeds are seeds that you would plant that would produce exactly the same plant that the seed came from. So that would be called producing true. And so if I say producing true, that just means, you know, that the child plant is going to be the same and have the same characteristics as the parent plant. So if you're going to collect your seeds, obviously these would be the seeds that you would want to collect, are the ones from open pollinated and heirloom seeds. And the next kind of seed I just ran across, and I don't really know a lot about this, but I'll just throw it out there for you. These are cultivated seeds. And from what I can gather, maybe one of you guys knows, but from what I can gather, these are reproduced seeds that come from plants that have been kind of interfered with, in sort of the same way of hybrids, but not really. What they are is they've been produced and harvested from the best plants with the best characteristics, I believe, and you know, so that they're going to produce a stronger, more vigorous plant or whatever. Kind of, it reminded me sort of how we do with when we breed animals, you know. For those who show animals, they might breed animals with the best characteristics with other animals with the best characteristics, and so, you know, it produces an overall better animal. So anyway, that's what that kind of reminds me of. And so maybe they might do that so that they can cause a plant to be able to adapt to a specific area where they want to grow. I just watched a video a few months ago of a new little seed starting company, or a seed company start, I should say, and they were talking about that, you know, they were focusing on specific seeds so that they can cause them to adapt to the San Diego area in California so that they would grow really well there. So at any rate, and then they planned on selling to the people around their area. So I don't know much about that. If you do, let me know. I'm really interested in finding that out. So the fourth kind of seed that I want to talk about is genetically modified, or GMO seeds. And over the past like 10 years or more, you know, people have been concerned about genetically modified foods and seeds and plants and all those kinds of things. And I am the same, you know, but I have found out that genetically modified seeds are widely unavailable to the home gardener. So we're not going to be able to go into Walmart or Home Depot or something like that and pick up any, you know, GMO seeds inadvertently just by not knowing. Nobody's trying to hide anything from us or anything like that. They just aren't available to us. So anything that you buy wherever, the only thing you really need to know is if you're going to collect seeds from it, you're going to want to get open pollinated or heirloom seeds, and you don't want to collect from a hybrid plant. And that's pretty much it. So at any rate, let's see, that's about all I need to say about GMOs. And so, Melinda, you said beefsteak. Beefsteak, I believe that there's probably certain hybrid beefsteak tomatoes. I don't know if beefsteak is necessarily just one specific type of tomato, because I believe that let me see, I grew Brandywine. I tend to grow Brandywine every year. I'm not doing it this year, but that's a beefsteak tomato, and this was an heirloom seed that I grew from. So I think that if you are going to get an heirloom beefsteak seed, that you'd be fine. Hey, Reba. So choosing a plant to save seeds from. So what kind of plants, like when you're going to collect your seeds, say you already know you're going to collect your seeds from, your Roma tomatoes. What you're going to do, and say you have about 6 or 7 Roma tomato plants. So which one do you collect from? Do you just collect from all of them? You could do that, but what you want to make sure to do is you are going to choose the most vigorous, most beautiful plant, and the one that has the most flavorful fruit, and maybe, that has a large harvest coming from the plant. And this is going to give you seeds that are going to produce plants like the parent plant. So that's what you want to do. Again, you want to use open pollinated or heirloom varieties only in order for the offspring of the plants to have the same characteristics as the parent plant. So I mentioned that you don't want to collect seeds from a hybrid plant. And the reason for that is because the hybrid plant, like I said, they're a cross between 2 plants, and that's for, they do that, again, for those that weren't here before, they do that to make a stronger plant, or a plant that you can harvest earlier, or a plant that has better fruit, or whatever. But the problem with collecting seeds from a hybrid is that if you do, you may not get the same plant as the parent plant. You may get one of the other 2 plants that were crossed. I'm glad you're here, Reba. I'm so happy. Hey, Deborah. Yeah, so you don't want to expect, when you plant your hybrid seeds, you don't want to expect that you're going to get that very same amazing fruit that you got from the last plant. You're going to want to stick to heirloom or open pollinated for that. Now, certainly you could try to collect the seeds from a hybrid and just see what happens. I mean, that's completely up to you. But you may not get it, and then you may also not even get a good germination rate at all from that. I have heard, though I don't have anything to back up what I'm saying, but I have heard, maybe one of you guys knows, that sometimes those seeds will end up being sterile for whatever reason. Yeah, Deb, it's hard to say, because a lot of times at those plants, so Deb's asking, if we buy plants, how do we know if it's hybrid? Sometimes it says hybrid on it. Sometimes it doesn't say hybrid. So what I would do, just for me, I bring my phone. My husband and I bring our phone to Home Depot or whatever our store is that we're at, and we constantly are just looking things up on the internet to see what they are, or what their maturity is, or maybe what their hardiness is, or something like that, to make sure that when we bring something home, that it's actually going to work in our, it's going to have a good chance of working on our property. So that's pretty much what I would do. Like if you go to a big box store and you're looking at, what type, different types of peppers or something like that, I would actually just look it up on the internet on my phone or something and find out if it's a hybrid variety. And the more that you do that, the more that you'll get a feel for what your heirloom varieties are. And lots of times the plants will say heirloom variety on it. And so if you're picking the heirloom variety, then, you should be fine. Okay, so let's see. You're choosing your most vigorous, most beautiful plants with good leaf color, good fruit texture, good flavor. You don't want to choose a plant that is weakened by pests or diseases. So, you're going to want to just kind of use your brain there, and if you see a great looking plant that has good fruit, go ahead and collect the seeds. Now, there are a lot of different other things on the list that you might want to consider, but for now, this is Seed Starting 101, Seed Saving 101, so, we just want to, have somewhere to start, okay? Excuse me. Okay, so, a note. If you plan to collect seeds from your plants, you'll want to research whether they can be cross-pollinated with other varieties. So, Melinda, you asked this a while ago about cross-pollinating. So there are some vegetables that cannot be planted together, or they probably will get cross-pollinated. So peppers and cucumbers are two examples of that. So you might end up, if you plant, hot peppers and sweet peppers together, they might cross-pollinate, and you might end up with a sweet pepper that you think is supposed to be hot and a hot pepper that's supposed to be sweet, and it's just kind of, one of those things that happens, and then you don't want to collect seeds from those. So a couple things that you can do to prevent cross-pollination is you can plant only one variety every year. So, if you were to, say, plant serrano peppers or something one year, you could save those seeds, and if you store them correctly, the viability will be pretty good, probably at least 4 years or whatever, and then you could plant your next variety, like your sweet peppers, the following year. But to me, that I don't really like that idea necessarily, because I want a couple different kinds of peppers. So here's another thing you can do, and this will go for other plants as well. You'll have to do your research on which plants you don't want to that will or be in danger of cross-pollinating, but you can also separate them by distance. So I've read 50 feet. I've also read that you can use a barrier that can keep the pollen from being blown or carried by insects. And I'm thinking like maybe planting, one variety in the front yard, one variety in the back, maybe being separated by the house or something. Or you can plant varieties that bloom at different times of the year. So that could be helpful for you. So Heidi says, if the Latin name is listed and you see an X between the genus and species name, you'll know it's a hybrid. Okay, that's a really good, that's a good thing to know, Heidi. Thank you. I didn't know that. A lot of times when I go, I don't see the Latin name at all listed on seed packets or on very many plants at all. So, but that's a really good piece of advice. I'm going to look for that next time I go and look at the plants. Okay, so how to collect your seeds. The method that you're going to use to collect your seeds will vary based on what the fruit is or what the plant is. Okay, so if you were going to, say, collect from kale, all right, you might have these pods here, and basically all I do with kale is I just kind of break the pod up in my hand. And can you guys see the seeds, the little black seeds? And so, I'll just remove the pieces of the pod, and I'll be left with the seeds. And there will be a little bit of extra plant material there. And so, that's an easy way to, the pods are really easy to collect from. Also, I think I lost it. These are radish pods. Let me show you actually what they look like. Okay, and these will have maybe 3 or 4 seeds inside. It's a little bit dark in my barn where I'm at right now, so I'm having a little trouble seeing, but So you would break up a radish pod, and maybe there might be, 2 to 5 seeds inside, and this is what those look like. So the pods are really easy, and you would wait until they're dry before collecting those. I like to if I have to remove the plant and the plant is still green along with all the pods on it. Like gosh, I want to show it to you, but it's just such a mess, the whole, here. Let me show this. So this is what kale looks like. And I actually cut the branches off and everything so that I could set them there and let them dry. And I did the same thing with the radish. So you would want to wait until the pods are dry, and then you can break them up really easily like I demonstrated. Another plant that you can collect seeds from, or another type, is the type that has like little umbels, which just means that there's a stem and then there's a bunch of little stems, and then you can see on here where there are some seeds on there. And so you can remove the plant from your garden if you want, or just let it dry right in your garden, and then you can just pull all the seeds, off of the umbels. And then you've got those. And that's cilantro or coriander. And in case you don't know, cilantro and coriander is the same thing. Coriander is what they call the seed. Cilantro is what they call the plant. And so there you have that. There's also other ways to collect seeds, like from tomatoes, where you would scoop out the seeds from the inside, and you would then soak and clean the seeds off. But no matter what, you would let them sit, like I like to use a cookie sheet and different paper towels if I have different seeds, and I just put one type of seed on every paper towel and put some kind of little barrier so they don't get messed up and mixed up. But then you let them dry for about 2 weeks, and you want to make sure they're 100% completely dry before you store them. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Heidi says, I know, I really think they should be listed in the Latin names all the time. Good nurseries put them on the tags. Yeah, I totally agree with you, because when we know the Latin names of plants, it's so much easier to know what we can do with them. Melinda says, how long can they stay in the pod before you break up and store? Do you know what? I have left them for like a long time. I would say, you could probably leave them in there and then break them up the following year. But I mean, it's kind of bulky, you know what I mean, to store them that way. So I would go ahead and just take out the seeds and put them in little containers, like these little coin containers. And coin envelopes, I should say. And then store them. And so Heidi says, I've heard of fermenting seeds. Do you know anything about this? I don't know a lot about fermenting seeds. Are you thinking that for like a pre-sprouting type thing? Because I have heard of that, and I've heard that you might want to do that with like harder seeds maybe, but I've never done it, so I haven't tried that yet. And yeah, they do need to be really, really dry. Thank you, Heidi. It's summer and it's really hot, so you're probably going to see my hair like this a lot. Okay, so getting back to the basic steps of seed collecting. So basically the first thing you're going to want to do is determine the method of seed dispersal for the plant that you're wanting to collect from. And that way you'll figure out what the best way to catch the seed is. So yeah, I think that's what, I've never heard of it referred to. Heidi says, I've heard of tomato seeds being fermented before saving, but I'm not sure. I think what that, I've never heard of it referred to as fermenting, but basically what, the way I usually do it is I scoop it out of the tomato and I put it in water, and basically what I've always learned that you're doing there is that it's kind of softening up the the fibers of the inside of the tomato so that you can more easily clean off the seeds. But I would suppose that those seeds are also being fermented at the same time. But I don't really know what why you would do that. I think I've probably always done it that way. I just haven't really thought of it as fermenting. So I'll find out that answer and post it in the group, and because I'm interested in knowing that as well. Okay, so you're going to determine the plant's method of seed dispersal and choose the best way to catch that seed. Now, if you have the seed pods like the ones I showed you with the kale or the radish, there's no catching at all until you're ready to crush the seed pod, and then you would just do it over a bowl and try to get rid of all the extra plant material from it. But there are some plants like lettuce where the seeds will just actually fall out. Once everything's all dried out, the seeds will just fall out of the pod itself, or not really the pod, but the flower calyx, I guess. And so if you don't store those in some way that will catch those seeds, if you just leave them out, I remember there was one year that I left all the plants out on a table, and when I went to remove them, there was a ton of like lettuce seed on the table, and I had to sort of, scoop it all up if I wanted to save any of it. So some plants are like that. And so basically you could use things like paper bags or, like some kind of a plastic container if you want to catch the seeds, if you're concerned about losing any of them. Or, again, you can, like in the case of tomatoes, you can scoop out the fruit, ferment and rinse and dry those seeds. And, just whatever plant you are using or you are collecting from, you're going to want to use whatever the best method is. So let me just recommend a book that I have here. And, sorry, there was some dust and stuff on it. This one, I know it's backward, but it's Seed Sowing and Saving. It's super easy to understand, and I'll give you guys a link to it. But it goes through like some of the very most common types of seeds. And one thing that I like the best out of this is that it tells you what the seed viability should be if you store under the proper conditions. So for broccoli, for example, when we go and buy seed packets, they usually will say, that they're good for up to a year, maybe 2. But if we store them correctly, we might get viable seeds for about 5 years. So let me check Melinda says, 1 year with my feverfew, I was deadheading the flowers and dropping on the ground and not realizing those were seeds. I know that does happen with certain kinds of seeds. They just fall right out of the calyx. And Heidi says, oh, that happened to me the first year I grew feverfew, and it's so invasive. I had tons of feverfew. Yeah, you know what, you guys? One time I planted, I think it was motherwort. Is that the one that's really tall and has like the spiky leaves and everything? It kind of looks a little bit like holly and has a beautiful purple flowers. It's a thistle of some sort. And it has these little, it's very similar to dandelion, where it has the little parachute type things, that carries the seeds along. And so I wanted to collect the seeds. No, it was, you know what it was? I think it was milk thistle, as a matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it. And so I wanted to collect the seeds so that I could plant them and I could, use them for medicine and everything. And, the wind just took it all away. And so I was having milk thistle coming up everywhere in my yard. And that plant is so mean. If you go and even try to, weed the baby or take the baby plants out because you don't want it growing there, that plant bites. So, excuse me for a moment. My nose was really itching and I just didn't want to do that on camera. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to do after you collect your seed is you're going to clean and spread out your seed to dry for a couple weeks. So cleaning could just mean simply, sifting it from some of the other plant material. And so you can do that sometimes with a sieve. And but it just really depends. Lettuce has a lot of puffy little pieces, that come in, or that come out out of the calyx with the seed. And so if you're going to sell your seed or something like that, you're going to be more concerned with cleaning all of that extra plant material out. In the case of lettuce, for me, I always just store all the plant material along with it. And you know what? It's kind of nice because it gives, when I plant it, if I plant it in rows, I can just do this, and it's giving me a little bit of extra space in between each of the seeds, because it's not all seeds that's going in, right? So anyway, I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but at any rate, that's how you would clean seeds that have a lot of dry plant material. Some people might winnow it, and I don't really know very much about that because I never do anything like that. But if you see old-timey people, trying to separate plant material from seeds or whatever, and they're doing it with the wind, letting the wind blow it away. There's that. I've never done anything like that. I just deal with it because I don't sell my seeds. And then some other seeds that the cleaning is going to be something like with tomatoes, because they come out kind of dirty out of the water, once you're separating it from some of the membrane and everything like that that's coming out of the tomato. Or if you're collecting squash seeds, there might be stringy things on the squash seeds or the pumpkin seeds or something like that. You're just cleaning all that stuff off. I don't worry too much about having a little extra of that, but I just don't want my seeds to be all clumped together. And that's usually what I work with, the way I do it. So Heidi says, I think that's what I have now, tons of thistle. I hope it's milk thistle, but not sure. It's definitely a thistle though. Yeah, there's a lot of different kind of thistle. And I've noticed that on our hikes, we see a lot of different kinds. So yeah. Then the next thing, once your seeds are all completely dry, one thing I want to mention to you is that if you're putting yours on cookie sheets, on paper towels, on cookie sheets or something like that, when you're drying your seeds out, we have a swamp cooler, so I try not to put my seeds near a swamp cooler or any other source of humidity at all. So you're just going to want to be mindful of that. It's not necessarily going to ruin your seeds, but it'll just take a lot longer for them to dry out. So you just want to put them in a dry place and not in the sun. Okay, so once your seeds are completely dry, you can go ahead and put them in little envelopes. I like, again, using these coin envelopes. And the reason why is because they're not too big to store. They're pretty cheap. I think I paid like $18 for 100 of these or whatever, and I still have a lot. And I've had them for a few years. And so, that's what I like to store in. You could use plastic bags, but to me, I feel like, the coin envelopes are going to hold less moisture in case there's a little bit of moisture in it. But at any rate, you just want your seeds to be really, really dry, and you should probably have generally pretty good luck with plastic or with the just regular paper envelopes. So the other thing you could do is you could choose like a glass jar, like a mason jar with a tight lid. If you have a lot of seeds or big seeds like pumpkin or squash or green beans or something like that, you can store them that way as well. Just make sure to label it, because you won't remember what the seeds are, I promise, because there's so many seeds that look pretty much the same. Label them with the variety and the date. So I usually only just put the year for the date because, I'm probably going to grow specific plants at the same time every year. So I don't worry too much about the month or anything, but I usually will put the year, and that's because I want to know, when I go to look in my book, to see what the viability is going to be. I want to know, you know, when I need to throw those away and collect new ones or whatever, or which ones are not going to be so good. Now, let me talk a little bit about viability. There's a way to check your seed viability. So like if I had seeds that were like 5 years old, I wouldn't just chuck them because my book said that they're not good anymore. I would actually check the seed viability. And I'm going to have a video coming up pretty soon on my YouTube channel that'll show you how to do that. But a real quick rundown of how to do that is just to wet a paper towel, put 10 seeds in, close a paper towel on top of it, or cover it with another wet paper towel. Not soaking wet, but just damp enough that the seeds are going to get, they're going to get moistened. And then put it in a plastic bag, seal it up, and check it in about a week to see how many of those seeds sprouted, and that would give you the percentage of the viability. So if you were to get 6 that sprouted and 4 that didn't, you would know that you have a 60% seed viability for those seeds. And so, there you go. That would actually speak to like maybe how many seeds you would plant together when you plant them in the ground or whatever. I'm not sure what you mean, Melinda, in the sun or shade. Could you elaborate on that a little more? You could actually probably use your seeds for much longer than you think if you were to go ahead and check the viability. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It just really depends on how many I have, and how often I'm going to be collecting seeds, if I'm not going to do it every year or if I am. Put the bag, you mean the bag to check the viability? I would just put it on a kitchen counter, kind of, the same way that we put our tinctures and things on the kitchen counter so we don't forget about them. Yeah. So just put them on a kitchen counter. Don't put them in the sun. You could maybe put them in a warm place. That would probably be good, but maybe not directly in the sun. Or if you do put it in the sun, let them warm up in the sun and then, move them over a little bit or something, like that. But I don't think it's really even necessary, to warm them. Especially now that we're approaching summer, it probably won't matter. Okay, so storing your seeds. Now, there's a few different ways to store seeds. Most of the time when I read books, they're talking about storing seeds in the freezer or in the refrigerator, keeping them in a cool, dry place. I don't do that because I don't want to forget that I have seeds in the refrigerator or the freezer, because mine would probably get lost in the deep freeze somewhere and I just would never be able to find them. And, chances are they might get fused to like a pound of hamburger or something. I don't know. So I don't do that. What I do is I put mine in these field boxes. They're ammunition boxes actually. And I have like index cards inside. Not index cards, but index card dividers. I put them sideways, and they're all in alphabetical order. So I have 2 of these, and I just store all my seeds inside of here. And this field box is, they're supposed to be water resistant and have a ring seal, so that if the box got wet, my seeds would not get wet. But you could see why, if I'm sealing it all up like that, you could totally see why you would never want any like wet seeds or any seeds that were moist at all. Well, yeah, I like to be kind of organized like that because I always forget what I have. I forget things a lot, so I have to actually be really organized, or else I will buy things over and over and over, just because I don't think I have them. And I just did that the other day with my goat's CD&T shots. I went and forgot what I was even buying, and when I got to the store, they showed me what it was, and I was like, oh, I think I already have that at home, but I hadn't thought of it in a year or so. Deborah says, my parents and grandparents would put the seed envelopes into a tin and store them there. Yeah, just pretty much any like airtight or watertight container would be fine. Our house gets pretty hot inside, but I usually will put it, like if you pick like the very center room in your house, you should be able to determine that that's probably the coolest room in your house, on the very center. And so my closet is like that. And I have also read that if you were to keep them in a place where if you added up the humidity plus the temperature and it was less than 150, those two numbers were added together and made less than 150, then you should be fine. But I haven't found a whole lot of information on that. So, but because I store mine, not in the refrigerator, that's kind of the method that I've been using, but I don't have anything really to back that up with. I can't really remember where I got the information from. So anyway, that's pretty much it. And I hope that you've enjoyed learning about this. And I can go more in depth, like as we go on with lives, as I get seeds to harvest. I can show you guys that, like, in a tiny little segment in future lives, if you guys want me to do that. And so, just like I did with the radish and with the kale, and when I showed you the coriander, I can just go ahead and do that every time I have seeds, just so that you guys can kind of get an idea of what each thing looks like and how to do it. And so anyway, that's pretty much it. But I also wanted to mention to you guys on another note, if you guys were any of the people that submitted questions for the AMA using herbs medicinally videos that we do, that got put off. We haven't yet put that video out. We were supposed to put it out probably like this week, but we haven't done that yet because our schedule got pushed back a little because somebody needed to have a vacation. So if you are interested in that video still and have a question submitted, or even if you don't, you just want to watch it, that should be out probably in a few weeks. And our guest person is going to be Heidi, so you'll be able to hear and see Heidi and get some of her insight on herbs. She's my herb guru person that I always ask questions to, so I know you'll enjoy seeing her on camera and hearing the things that she has to say if you don't take any of her courses or anything like that. I know you'll really enjoy her. So next week, I'm probably not going to be here because Todd will have the next week off, and he's painting the house, and we're doing a lot of home improvements, and so he may or may not need me. So if he doesn't need me, then I will probably broadcast from here again in my barn. If not, likely I probably won't make it though, because home improvements, a lot of trips to the hardware store, a lot of work and everything like that. So I probably won't be here, but I will definitely be back the following week, and we'll probably talk about some kind of growing herbs again, because I know that you guys like that. So if you have a specific herb you want to learn about, plug it in the comments, and I will take a look at your guys' suggestions and choose what I think I know best. And so, that way I'll share with you then. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I really appreciate you for letting me into your life on these Tuesdays. And oh, thank you, Deborah. Yeah, I try to decorate it a little bit, since it's sort of my, what do they call that? She shack, I guess you can call that. My husband doesn't share with me. He has the garage and I have the barn, so I get to put up little pictures and things like that. So anyway, thanks a lot for coming today, guys. I really appreciate you all. Talk to you later. Bye.